There was a moment in that room where everything stopped and pointed at me. The question in the air, the faces turned, the silence that was really just an opening they built for me. To walk through. I stood at the edge of it, looked at what they wanted, looked at what I had, and closed the door. Each note placed like a man who knows exactly what he's not gonna say. Shuffle drums, holding steady. It wasn't that I didn't have the answer, I had it. Had it before they finished asking the question. It wasn't that I was afraid of what it would cost, I knew what it would cost. Did the math in the space between one breath and the next. The cost was acceptable, the timing wasn't, and timing is everything that separates precision from noise. There's an art to saying nothing. Most people never learn it, because silence feels like losing, like the room is winning. Every second you don't feel it. They're all, the room doesn't win when you stay quiet. The room just thinks it does. And what the room thinks is rarely the point. The guitar knows this, plays the notes it doesn't play as carefully as the ones it does. The space between two chords is where the music actually lives. I learned that, applied it elsewhere. But I kept that day, stayed sharper than anything I could have said. Said things dull, they go into the air, get interpreted, get misread, get used against you in rooms you weren't in by people who weren't there. What stays inside stays exact, stays yours, stays the way you meant it, uncorrupted your mouth. I had the answer, the room wanted it, I kept it anyway. Not because I was afraid, because I understood something about silence that the room hadn't learned yet. The meeting ended, people left, the question went unanswered in every official record of that room. But I carried the answer out with me, still have it, still exist, still mine. The room got nothing, I got everything I walked in with, plus the knowledge of what I was capable of keeping. Not everything I know gets said, not because I'm hiding, because I developed criteria a long time ago for what deserves to leave the room I carry it in. The criteria are simple. Is this true? Does the person in front of me have the capacity to receive it correctly? Will saying it serve something or just relieve the pressure of knowing? If the answer to any of those is uncertain, I keep it. I watch people say true things at the wrong time to the wrong person and lose everything the truth was supposed to protect. Truth without judgment is just noise with good intentions, and good intentions in the wrong room do the same damage as bad ones. So I learned to hold it, to sit with what I knew, and ask the harder question, not is this true, but is this the right vessel for this particular truth at this particular moment? Most of the time, the answer is no. The guitar understands criteria, knows that a note played at the wrong moment doesn't just fail, it damages what came before it, changes the meaning of everything in the measure. I learned that from music before I learned it from runes. The blues doesn't play everything it feels, it chooses. And the choosing is where the intelligence lives. Not in the feeling, not in the know, but in the decision about when and whether to let it out. Not every truth deserves the mouth that would have to say it. Some things are too precise for the conversation they'd enter, too exact for the imprecision of a room full of people who would hear it wrong and use it worse. Those things I keep, not forever, for the right moment, for the right person, for the conversation that's earned what I'm holding. Some of those moments never come, and the truth stays with me, which means it stays true, uncontaminated, exactly as I understood it the day I decided it wasn't ready for the world yet. There's a particular kind of discipline in knowing something and choosing not to use it. Most people think knowledge is only valuable when it's shared. I think knowledge is most valuable when you know exactly when not to. The silence that comes from that isn't empty, it's full of everything I decided the room wasn't ready for. And I'm comfortable in that fullness, more comfortable, honestly, than I ever was in the noise. In the noise. The room had a question. Everyone in it already knew who was supposed to answer. They turned toward him the way rooms turn, not all at once, not dramatically, just a gradual reorientation of bodies and attention, until the weight of it was pointing in one direction. He felt it, didn't move, didn't fill the space they were building for him, just sat with it the way a mountain sits with weather. In seconds and texture. First it was just a pause, then it became the kind of quiet where people start checking their hands, their phones, the middle distance, anything that isn't the man at the center of it, who still hasn't moved. Someone shifted in their seat, someone cleared their throat. The sounds of people who need the silence to stop and don't understand why it won't. He understood. He was the reason it wouldn't. There's a particular power in being the stillest thing in a room full of movement. Not stillness from emptiness, stillness from density, the kind that has so much in it that nothing needs to escape, that can hold everything it contains without leaking. The guitar does this, a sustained note that doesn't resolve, that just holds its pitch, while the room around it fills with the expectation of something that isn't coming. That was him, that sustained note. The room was the expectation, and he had no intention of resolving. Eventually the room always does the same thing. It gives up, not dramatically, just the energy shifts, the expectation withdraws, the bodies reorient towards something else, someone else, some other source of what they were looking for. And he watches that happen every time, with the same quiet observation of someone who knew it would. Because rooms always do when they realize the thing they're waiting for isn't for sale. The room waited, he let it. That was the whole answer. After the room emptied, the silence stayed. Not his silence anymore, just silence. The kind that fills a space after something that was supposed to happen didn't. He walked out through it, didn't look back. The question still in the air behind him, unanswered, intact, exactly as he'd left it. The heaviest thing in that room had been his decision not to speak, and he'd carried it out without anyone knowing what it weighed. last note of the dark blues held longer than necessary. Flat-wound bass underneath. Shuffled drums barely present. The sound of a man who knows what's coming and walks toward it anyway. But the space is widening. Flat-wound bass dropping away, one note at a time. Electric guitar still leading, but the phrase is shorter now. Less philosophy, more bone. Lo-fi filter entering at the very edges, not dramatic. The way a temperature drops, you feel it before you name it. The sophistication of the dark blues, beginning to shed what it doesn't need for where it's going. Every note more deliberate than the last. This descent is not a fall, it is a choice. Occupying the same space, neither dominant, the articulate and the primitive briefly coexisting. Shuffled drums and stomping, trading measures, lo-fi filters stronger. The warmth of the dark blues thinner, not disappearing, being left behind intentionally, the way a man leaves behind what won't serve him in the territory ahead. Flat-wound bass gone, slide guitar holding the low end now. Raw, immediate, unpolished, the descent more than halfway complete. Lo-fi complete, no reverb, no warmth, no philosophy. Just the sound of what it cost, what every silence cost, what every choice to hold something extracts in the dark. This is below the elegance, this is where the bill gets presented. Slide guitar calls, stomping answers, call and response. The oldest conversation between what a man chose and what that choosing asks of him when nobody is watching. Lo-fi, sparse, haunting, the sound of a territory that doesn't dress up for anyone. Extended, letting the raw delta establish itself completely. The dark blues is behind him now. Was here, is older, more honest, the kind of honest that only exists below the choices, in the place where the cost of being precise all day finally has a sound. Finally has a sound. day was clean. He held his ground, didn't give them what they came for. Walked out intact, head level. Everything he came in with, still in his possession. Then the night came, same as always, with its particular way of collecting. Right don't mean free. That's the part. Nobody tells you about choosing silence. The choice can be correct, clean, precise, justified, and still cost you something in the dark. Not guilt, not doubt, just the weight of everything that didn't get said. Sitting on your chest at 2 in the morning, asking to be acknowledged. He acknowledged it every night. That was the deal. I know this hour, when the bill comes, when the day's decisions send their invoice. Didn't say what I knew, didn't correct what was wrong, didn't give him the satisfaction. All of that was right, still cost something. Right don't mean free, never did. Accounting every note, the price of a different silence. Stomping rhythm underneath, steady, inevitable. The sound of a bill being paid in full. He sat with the invoice, didn't argue it, line by line. Paid what was owed, the thing he didn't say at 9 in the morning. The correction he swallowed at 2:30. The look on their face when they got away with it, the taste of that, still there at midnight. Right don't mean free. Every silence has a price. He paid his every night. Not because he was weak, because he understood that some choices cost you in the dark, even when they were right in the light. That's not a problem, that's the terms. He read the terms, he signed anyway. Eyes open, every time. Settled, paid, there's a difference. Last note held, then the dark, same as every other night. Waiting with its clipboard, and him already reaching for what he owes. The sound of a chest that's been carrying something all day and finally has nowhere to put it. Lay down at 11, still awake at 2. Not from worry, from weight. Different thing. Worry is noise. This is mass. This is density. Everything I didn't say today, still in my chest, taking up the space where sleep should be. I know what's in there, every piece of it. The thing I didn't say at 9, the correction I swallowed at noon, the answer I had at 3 that nobody in that room was ready to receive. All of it's still here, not haunting me, not eating at me, just present. The way furniture is present, solid, specific, occupying space. I've gotten used to the inventory, running most nights. This is what I kept today, this is what it weighs, this is where I put it, until morning. It sits behind the sternum, specific location. I know it the way you know a scar. Not painful, just there, permanent resident, paying no rent. The things I said went out into the world, got used, misread, came back wrong. The things I kept stayed exactly what they were, mine intact, true. The sound of taking inventory in the dark. Every note another item on the list. Stomping rhythm steady, the body keeping count, while the mind runs the numbers. Years of this, years of choosing, years of the right words, staying put. Add it up sometime, what's in here? All the rooms, all the moments, all the faces that got less than what I had for them, because they weren't ready. It's a lot, I'll say that. Full doesn't cover it, saturated is closer. But here's the thing about being full of what you didn't say. It takes up space, but it also becomes structure. The things I kept a part of how I'm building now, load bearing, hidden in the walls. Take them out and something would shift, something would be less solid than it is. I don't want that, so I made room. Learn to breathe around the fullness, learn to sleep with the weight of it distributed evenly across everything I am. Everything I didn't say is still in here. I learned to make room for it, not because I had to, because I understood that the accumulation was also a record of every time I chose precision over release. That record is worth keeping, even at 2 in the morning, even when it's heavy, especially then. sound of a man watching something wrong happen and choosing not to move. The wrong version got accepted. He watched it happen, didn't move. The credit went somewhere else. He saw where it landed, still didn't move. The room settled on the wrong answer. He had the right one, kept it. It wasn't that he missed it. He saw it before anyone else in the room. It wasn't that he couldn't have corrected it. He could have 3 words, maybe 4 would have been enough. But he ran the calculation in the space between seeing it and saying something. What does correcting this get me? What does it cost? Who benefits from the correction? Who loses? What's still possible if I let it stand? The math came out the same way it always does when he does it honestly. Correcting it would have been right. Letting it stand was smarter. He let it stand. I've done this more times than I count. Let the wrong thing sit where it landed. Not because I'm weak, because I play long. Because the board looks different from where I stand. What looks like a loss in the moment sometimes clears a path 3 moves later. Sound of long game thinking, unhurried, precise. Every note placed further ahead than the current measure. Stomping rhythm underneath, steady, patient. The sound of someone who can wait. He let the wrong version win, had his reasons. They were good ones, nobody asked. The other man took the credit home, probably still has it. Good letting. Credit spent now means nothing later. What he kept compounds in the dark. He let the wrong version win. He had his reasons. They were good ones. I know because I was him. I am him. Every time I run that calculation and choose the longer view over the immediate correction. The room got the wrong answer. I kept the right one. Someday the board will look different enough that the right answer will matter. Until then, let it stand. Let them have it. It cost me nothing. I wasn't already prepared to pay. The wrong version, still standing somewhere. The right one, still in his possession. Last note held the patience of a man who plays further out than anyone in the room. Thought to look, then silence.
Last phrases of the raw delta, sparse, haunting. The sound of a man who looked at the cost directly, didn't flinch, paid what was owed, and is now standing up. Each beat landing with less insistence. The account has been settled. There's nothing left to press down on. Lo-fi filter thinning. Slide guitar phrases getting less raw, more considered. Upright bass enters one note, low and warm. The first dignified sound after the reckoning. It doesn't announce itself, just arrives. The way composure arrives after a man has faced something honestly and come through it without breaking. Each phrase further apart, piano entering low register, single notes, not yet a melody, just a presence. The presence of a space that has been waiting. Lo-fi filter dissolving, warmth returning. Upright bass strengthening. Brush drums replacing the stomping. One measure at a time. The transition happening. The way accounts settle, not all at once. Item by item, until the balance reads zero, and the man can walk somewhere. It doesn't require him to be quite so honest about what things cost. First full phrase of the noir jazz, upright bass walking beneath. Slide guitar gone, stomping gone, lo-fi gone. What remains is warm, cinematic. The particular elegance of a space that receives men who have been somewhere honest and come back. Piano plays like it knows what he paid to walk through this door. Doesn't ask about it, just makes room. Single notes, the noir jazz complete. Not lighter than what came before. More composed, the same weight, better posture. The sound of a man who settled his account in the dark and came up here to sit with what's left, extended, letting the noir jazz fully establish. The reckoning is behind him. What's here now is the particular dignity of someone who looked at the cost of every silence he chose today, paid it honestly in the hours when nobody was watching, and walked into this room owing nothing to anyone. To anyone.
came in the way men come in after a day of holding something. Not heavy, contained. There's a difference. The bar learned to read a long time ago. Heavy means something went wrong. Contained means something went right. And it cost him anyway. He was contained, the bar recognized it, made the adjustments a good bar makes without being told. The piano noticed first, the way it always does. Before the bartender, before the smoke, before the lowlight had time to read him, it shifted half a measure, not stopping, not starting over, just opening a space in the middle of what it was playing. A space the size of a man who needed the music to go around him for a while. He sat down into that space, set his hands on the bar. Didn't order yet, just arrived. He brought his silence in and set it on the bar. Not dramatically the way you set down something you've been carrying since morning. Carefully, without announcement, in the one place you'd trust to hold it, without asking what it is. The piano played around it, incorporated it. The silence became part of the arrangement. Not a hole in the music, but a note the piano decided to let breathe longer than usual. That's what this place did. That's what it had always done. Received what men brought in, made it part of the composition. He brought his silence in and set it on the bar. The piano played around it like it belonged there, because it did. Everything a man carries in here belongs here for as long as he needs it to. The upright bass walked beneath him, didn't rush. The brush drums kept time, patient, undemanding. The rhythm of a place that had learned that some men need the music to do the talking for a while. He ordered without words. The bartender poured without asking. The smoke moved in the particular way it moves around a man who has decided that tonight the silence is company enough. And the piano kept playing around him, through him, between everything he hadn't said today and everything he wasn't gonna say tonight. Making room the way it always did for the men who came in full of what they didn't give away. He didn't speak, didn't need to. The piano already knew what kind of day it had been. Played it back to him in a key nobody else in that room would recognize. The key of a man who held everything he was given to hold, and gave nothing away that wasn't his to give. The bar held that key, had always held it, would hold it long after he was gone. The sound of a room that has made peace with silence as a form of presence. At work they call it reserved, code for something's wrong with him, code for he doesn't trust us, code for we can't read him, and that makes us uncomfortable. At home they call it distant. Are you okay? You seem far away. What are you thinking? The questions that assume silence is a symptom of something that needs fixing. With friends it's you're quiet tonight, said the way you say you seem tired, like it's an observation, but it's really an invitation to explain yourself. Every room I walk into wants to diagnose the quiet, give it a name, hand it back to me with a label on it. He pushed the door, the bar received him the way bars receive men who have been explained at all day. Without a word, without a look that meant anything other than, what are you having? The piano was playing something slow in the corner. It didn't adjust when he walked in, didn't make space, didn't close space, just kept playing the way music plays when it doesn't need to respond to you, when it simply coexists. That was enough. That was everything. Every other room wants to fix the quiet. This one just lets it be. No diagnosis, no invitation to explain, no face that changes when I don't fill the silence with something that makes everyone more comfortable. Just the piano, the glass, the particular low light that doesn't ask what it's illuminating. He ordered one word, the bartender one gesture, the entire transaction conducted in the economy of men who understand that efficiency is its own kind of respect. No small talk, no how was your day, no you look like you needed that. Just the drink, just the space, just the smoke, moving the way smoke moves when nobody's asking it to perform. He sat in that, let it be exactly what it was, the only room in his entire day that received him without wanting him to be different. Then he arrived. The quiet settled around him like it recognized him, like it had been here waiting, not for him specifically, for the kind of man who knows that silence isn't something to be explained away. It's something to be inhabited. And this room, this particular room, at this particular hour, was the only place in his entire life where that was understood without him having to say it. Which was the point, which had always been the point. The last phrase of the Noir jazz, not ending, completing, a bright bass beneath, brushed drums barely present, the sound of a man who received what he came for, not more, not less, and knows exactly when to leave. But the phrase is becoming more final, each one closing rather than opening. Fewer notes, the swing rhythm not dissolving, concluding. There is a difference. Dissolution is passive, conclusion is chosen. Enters at the edge, one sustained note, barely audible, the outside making itself known, not calling, simply present, the way the open is always present, just past the last light of any room. Each one a small completion, strengthening, single notes, wide reverb, upright bass gone, brushed percussion, replacing brushed drum, sparser, more space between, the intimacy of the bar, not collapsing, being left behind with intention. The way you leave a place that served you well, not because something went wrong, because something went right, and the right thing now is to go. Is to go.
is open. The particular openness of a space that has no walls to ask anything. No bartender, no smoke, no piano playing around the shape of him. Just the man and the vast strings enter, very low, very warm, no melody yet. Just the sound of space that belongs to him. Not because he earned it, because he chose it, left the witness for the owned. Deep reverb on everything. Meditative, the chosen ground approaching. Strings beneath, subtle, warm, brush percussion, barely marking time, deep reverb. The sound of a man moving through open space after a day of precise choices, extended. Letting the cinematic fully establish, no bar behind him now. No witness, no diagnosis, no room waiting for him to fill its silence. Just the vast and him in it, exactly the size he always was when nobody was measuring. Behind him, well left, the open is ahead. Chosen ground approaching, not rushing. Moving the way a man moves when he knows where he's going, and chose to go there. Last note held wide, the transition complete from witness to owned. From the room that understood him to the space that is him. Same silence, no walls.
Not arriving already here. Each note deliberate, placed the way a man places, something he chose to carry. Sparse piano enters beneath, low register. The sound of silence that was selected, not inherited, not empty, decided. Not keeping time, marking territory. Piano continues unhurried. No urgency. The silence has been earned today. Every room that asked for words got none. Every question that expected an answer got held. The texture of that discipline still present in the sound. Meditated but not passive, dense but not heavy. Chosen silence sounds different than any other kind. Deep reverb, wide, exactly as large as he decided it would be. Not carrying the weight of the day, carrying the decision, the melody of a man who spent 8 hours selecting what stayed inside, and is now in the only place where all of it can finally take up its full size. Piano follows, deliberate, unhurried. Strings rise slightly, no drama, just the natural expansion of something that was held compressed all day and now has room. Its natural amplitude, not a climax, a claiming. This is the sound of territory occupied, silence that doesn't need to justify its size. Strings sustained, warm, unresolved, piano and guitar moving together, brush, percussion steady, deep reverb on everything. This is what discipline sounds like when it finally has nowhere to perform. Vast, deliberate, entirely his, the chosen ground of a man who knew exactly what he was doing every time he didn't speak. The melody levels, not descending, plateauing, the sound of something that has found its natural size and is comfortable there. Strings hold, piano moves in single notes, brushed percussion, barely present. The silence is not winding down, it is simply being the way chosen things simply are, without apology, without explanation, without the need to justify why they take up this much space. Not fading, remaining, each note the sound of a decision that was made correctly. Piano holds beneath, strings sustain, the chosen ground doesn't dissolve, it stays the way a good decision stays, long after the room that required it has emptied. Last note held, not released, kept the way he kept everything else today, precisely on purpose, because it was his to keep. Already present, already known. No arrival, no announcement. notes spaced wide apart. Each one the sound of something that doesn't need to introduce itself. Atmospheric guitar enters beneath, held tones only. No melody yet, just the particular warmth of a silence that has been here before, that knows the shape of the man who inhabits it. Deep reverb, the sound of after the rooms, after the choices, after the discipline. This barely present, not marking time, confirming presence. Piano continues, unhurried, already settled. Guitar holds long tones beneath. Subtle strings enter. One chord, very low, no movement, no direction. This is not silence, searching for something. This is silence that already found it. The state of man arrives after a day of precise choices. Not rest exactly, recognition. The particular quality of a mind that spent 8 hours exercising discipline and is now in the territory that discipline was always protecting. Meditative, deep breather, nothing asking, nothing owed. Each one the sound of a decision that doesn't need to be revisited. Piano echoes, not following, confirming, strings hold, barely moving, brushed percussion steady. This melody doesn't build, it deepens. The difference between a man who is still arriving and a man who has been here long enough to know the furniture, every corner of this silence, every particular quality of this dark. It is his, has always been his. The day was borrowed time. This is the original. This is what he was before the rooms and what remains after. None of them moving. The melody plateaus, not at a peak, at a depth. The deepest point is not the highest, it is the most interior. Strings sustained, one chord unresolved, because resolution belongs to rooms that need conclusions. This room needs nothing, piano and guitar in parallel, unhurried, no crescendo, no release, no performance. After discipline, the state beneath every version he wore today.
exactly when not to speak. Beneath all of that, this deep breather, wide, patient hiss. None leaving, 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 none leaving. No arrival, no announcement, no spaced wide apart. Each one the sound of something that doesn't need to introduce itself. Atmospheric guitar, held tones only, no melody yet. Just the particular warmth of a silence that has been here before, that knows the shape of the man who inhabits it. Deep reverb, the sound of after the rooms, after the choices, after the discipline. This barely present, not marking time, confirming presence. Piano continues, unhurried, already settled, that doesn't need to introduce itself. Atmospheric guitar and demands it, because it is simply what he is at this hour. Precise, present, accountable to no one. The last note does not fade, it remains at the edge of hearing, patient the way all chosen things remain long after the runes, after the discipline. This
vast string expression, barely present, the chosen ground, still occupied, the silence still, the sighs. He decided it would be, but something is changing. Not the silence, the direction of it, turning inward, the way a man turns when he has something to say that only works at close range. Note landing closer to the center, strings beginning to fade, one instrument at a time. The vastness not ending, focusing, the way a lens focuses. The same light, smaller point, more precise. Brushed percussion slowing, warm analog, entering at the edges. Barely audible, the first hint of something intimate arriving. Fingerpick guitar enters beneath the atmospheric guitar. Single notes, warm, close, no reverb, immediate. The vast and the precise, briefly sharing the same space. that requires less space to be more true. Strengthening, warm analog deepening, strings almost gone, just the faintest sustain. Brush percussion, becoming brush drums, intimate now, the deep reverb of the cinematic, giving way to the warmth of the ballad. This contraction is not a loss, it is precision. The difference between a man who needs the whole sky to feel free and a man who knows that the truest things he has to say fit in a single room with the door closed. Note deliberate, space of a room, not a horizon. Brush drums enter, soft, barely there. Warm analog, complete, deep reverb gone, strings gone. What remains is the sound of one man in one room at the end of one precise day. Finger-picked guitar finds its first melody, slow, unhurried, the melody of something that has been waiting all day to be said, in the only register that tells the truth without performing it. Not the cinematic register, not the vast register, the register of a single voice in a room just large enough to hold it. Slower than anything before it. Warm analog, no sharp edges. Each note placed like a decision. Brush drums enter like a memory of a long day finally settling. The sound of a man at the threshold, coat in hand. Everything accounted for. There were things they wanted from me today. I know exactly what they were. I kept an inventory, not out of resentment, out of precision. This is what was asked for. This is what I gave. This is what I kept. The column that mattered was always the last one. What left with me at the end of the day, what I walked out with today, that column was full. The sound of a man taking one last look at a room that got less than it wanted and deserved exactly that. I didn't give them the answer, the one I had before they finished asking. I didn't correct the record, even when the record needed correcting. And I was the only one in the room who knew it. I didn't fill the silence they built for me to walk through. I let it stand until the room decided to move on, without what it was waiting for. All of that was a choice made clearly, with full awareness of what I was doing and why. I walked out with everything I came in with. That was the whole point. There's a version of today where I said the thing, corrected the record, filled the silence, gave them what they built the space for. In that version, the room felt better for about 12 minutes, then it moved on. And I walked out with less than I arrived with, having spent something that didn't need spending on a room that wouldn't remember what I gave it by morning. I know that version, I've lived it. I don't anymore. The guitar knows what today cost, plays it back to me in the only key I let myself use at this hour, the one where the silence is the instrument, where what wasn't played carries more weight than what was, where a man can finally account for everything he held without having to explain to anyone why he held it. That's what this hour is, the accounting, and the accounting comes out right. I put on the coat, same way I always do, left hand first, then right. Walked out the door into whatever comes next, carrying exactly what I arrived with. The answer they didn't get, the correction I didn't make, the silence I let take up the space they built for something else. All of it's still mine, precise, intact, exactly as I intended. When I decided this morning what kind of day this was gonna be, walked out whole. Not because nothing happened, because everything that happened happened on my terms. And my terms, quiet as they are, have always been the only ones I was willing to live by. Each note further apart, brush drums gone, just the guitar, and the particular silence of a man who gave nothing away that wasn't his to give. Last note held, not released, kept the way he kept everything else, and the dark and him in it.